one. Ladies and gentlemen, I think there are three main things that's missing in opening half and our opposition side. Number one, the incentive structure and disincentive structures on how these actors will realistically do things. Number two, explaining how things work in the real world with lots of factors and other actors that are existing and not just a pure vacuum. And number three, mutual exclusivity in their side, which were not properly done by any of the other sides other than closing government. Now, before this, I'm going to have some direct rebuttals to closing opposition. They basically told us two major things. Number one, if you buy more, if we have these data pricing change things are going to be more expensive, like pride flags for gay month or beer when it's party days. Now we think that these things are not really major things that will be so important to actually tip the scales of the debate to be completely meaningless. Heck, we argue that this happens right now in status quo. Things like Amazon, things like Valentine's Day, flowers are hyperly exaggerated to be more expensive, even if we don't have these D2C things. So you don't really change much in status quo telling, oh, we're going to have cheaper sides in our side, and you're just going for the negative case that, oh, they're going to respond to demand when there is expected demand in these things, when companies will do that almost always in both sides, regardless of people's data being there in special events. And then the second idea is here on the violation of rights to policy. We think that this is so kind of minute, guys. Like, in every single day, almost every company right now in status quo is taking your data. And I really don't know how changing from Amazon into D2C having these kinds of things are going to be having a major effect. It's really such a small scale that they're trying to say that, oh, more data will be taken. And they don't say how and what extent is it worse in their side when it happens in both sides regardless. Now, some rebuttals here. So other rebuttals too is OG wants profit maximization and OO's worried about corporate greed. That is exactly where Joseph's extension comes in and explains how we solve that. His analysis solves the gap in OG's case and shows how this incentive structure to do things well come upstream and logically prior to OG's case. This discussion on the invisible hand and levers of demand and supply, which are the premise of places with strong consumer protection, serves as a check and balance to the worst harms of opposition binge. If OO is worried about startups and small businesses, we directly protect them and create an incentive structure for them to price fairly and properly, because there is a chance they get tempted to cut corners, steal data, be sloppy with data storage practices. But precisely because in places with strong consumer protections, we place legislative guardrails and guides to push them to do it well. A lot of what CG says is actually reminiscent of their opening. Please note that there is zero engagement to Joseph's case and is completely dismissive. This shows that our positive material is all still standing and are all still standing, and our competing analysis from rebuttals responds to OO and by extension preempts CEO. If CEO is so worried about the economics of this, it's simple. In the worst case, that greed takes over and companies, regardless of size, end up pricing unfairly, it's precisely because of the strong consumer protections that prevent the worst case. Panel, please read the motion. There is the first part that in places with strong consumer protectionism. Everyone in this just made it about personalized prices in general or D2C models in general. If you were not listening, it sounds like CG is so different, but in reality, we for real box everyone out and are nuanced to the full spirit of the motion. So what did OG exactly say? Well, I think there's a lot of just missing middle analysis on how it works. They gave us lots of promises, more money, more revenue, respond to dynamic demand and accessibility. All of those things are kind of true, yeah, sure, but they failed to actually tell us on how we exactly get there. And that's where we came in with Joseph. And OO kind of tried to respond with this, oh, we want to maximize revenue and incentive structure. These companies have really bad incentive structure. This is now us in trying our best to engage with them that buys the most product, and the revenue will only come from rich people or something. Now, we think that they don't exactly understand how the reality of the world actually looks like. I think we could get from Seth that number one, places with strong consumer protections are first world world countries with governing bodies that stop them and prevent any of these crazy stuff from happening, of crazy stuff of hyper pricing for poor people, and then rich people are also not the ones that are likely to be receiving discounts. It's more likely for poor people or people that actually need it. And this idea of privacy and data loss is not really mutually exclusive. Data is always taken on both sides, guys. If you aren't buying a D2C, it's going to be another company. And products offered look like when offers need something, it is likelier for them to give good and what exactly does products offered look like? It means that when someone needs something, it is likelier for them to give products. Why is this so true? If a customer gets a cheap product and it works well, then it brings more happiness. Incentive structure that some of the incentive structure that we're telling. And if one person gets only offered more expensive products, then they're just not going to buy because there are other companies that are D2C that will do that. And OO kind of failed in actually telling us how that is more likely to happen. OO asserted to us that it will maximize profits for companies if they're going to give us max price, but that is really not how it works, and they are trying to act like it's in a vacuum. So what did Joseph exactly say? He solves this debate by telling us that the debate is mostly focused about strong customer protections. We would not just about personalized pricing too. When we say strong customer protections, this means and preventing all the. This means of just watching and having like a carrot and stick method on protecting people, while government departments are preventing all of these terrible things from happening. And this is comparatively better to have strong customer protections in our side because it actually stops them from trying to do these hyperinflation things, trying to stop them from actually doing all these kinds of harms, and kind of breaks the narrative on and actually makes it better for the customers in general. I think that this protects a lot more people, and it's actually more people-centric when we have strong customer protection. And I've never been prouder to propose this, to be part of government. Thanks.